Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. This video is all about squash and zucchini. I'm going to show you how I pruned it back. I'll give you a lot of examples and explain why that's beneficial. And I'm also going to show you what the early signs of powdery mildew look like and talk about how to treat it. If you catch these diseases, these fungal diseases early, they're a lot easier to treat. So here are two of my squash plants that actually we have two of them growing out of here, and I only wanted one, but I forgot to thin the other one out. So these are squash plants that are pretty well packed together, but they're doing extremely well. Now, your squash, your zucchini are typically vines, and they're going to just slowly grow in one direction. The flowers will start here, they'll work their way up the plant like they are. You can see some of the squash. But as you harvest, new flowers don't come here. So you can cut back all the leaves in there, open it up. This will help manage powdery mildew because there's a lot less leaves, more airflow, and the disease doesn't spread as quickly. You can also get in here and dust these stems. There's a squash bug. We got to keep an eye out for that. I'm going to grab that. I'll give you a tip on how you find those too. You can dust along here. It stays away from the flowers. You'll kill off any vine borers or beetles that are crawling around. But the space is nice and open. And you can see I'm going to go to different plants. I just cut the plants, the leaves off, toss them in a pile, and I went through my whole garden yesterday and really thinned out these plants. And they still look beautiful. The leaves are nice and green. Here's how you identify powdery mildew. And it might be a little bit hard, but if you can see on these leaves there are some little yellow dots forming, very faint, right there, right there. I'm going to move the camera and try and catch them. That's powdery mildew forming on the underside, and it will form, and you can see it right above my thumb, right there, two little dots there. So the powdery mildew will form on the underside. When it forms on the underside, the leaves will start to yellow, but it also forms on the outer part, and you can start seeing the dot pattern all along there, and there's probably, hard to tell them there, but this is on top of the leaf. And you can see it even more so right there. That's powdery mildew, and as soon as you see that pattern coming, you know that it's time to spray. Now, I've been spraying these about every 10 to 14 days. That is your best friend in stopping fungal diseases, is to spray on a regular schedule. It really doesn't matter what you pick. There's so many different products. We could use baking soda spray, a wettable sulfur spray, Serenade, chemical fertilizer, chemical spray that's really good is Daconil. But it's not organic, but it really holds on the leaves. You can do hydrogen peroxide, you can do neem oil. The sprays matter, but not as much as sticking to a regular routine. So the first thing I would do is I would get in here and thin out the plants. And again, you can see I just pulled leaves out all the way up from the ground, all the way up to the new flowers. Just remove them, get rid of them. Also, where the plant is laying on the ground, I cut the leaves out so that anything that's really growing is on top of the plant. And that's all going to reach up to the sun. You can see all the new leaves, all the flowers, and this plant is pretty much healthy. Once I spray, I'll spray again in 7 days, get this powdery mildew under control, and these plants will do really well. After you spray, after things have dried, if you want to drop dust down, I'll show you how to dust the bottom of the stems, and maybe put a little bit of dust on the outer leaves if you had like cucumber beetles or squash bugs crawling around. Let's go over to another squash plant so I can show you the pruning. So I will link my most recent harvest video. I'll put it in the job description, end of this video, and in an iCard. And you can see what all these squash plants look like before I really prune them back. So this is a squash plant, a single one, and I'm looking on the top for the powdery mildew. I don't see it anywhere on these leaves, so that's great. But if it's on one plant, all my squash and zucchini are going to get sprayed. And if we go into here, you can see again the stem. I've cut back the leaves today all the way up to where the flowers are, and you can see that it's still sprawling out this way. All the new flowers are coming, and I will just keep removing the leaves about every week as this is progressing forward. When you reduce the the leaves. It's also easier to get in and spray. You're not spraying as many leaves. I can get in under here real easily, inspect the undersides. There's a squash bug, for instance. You see that? So we're going to just reach in, try and grab it with my fingers, and we're going to squash the squash bug. And it makes inspection a lot easier. You can just kind of move the leaves around. So the tip I was talking about in the other video, this vine is actually up in the air like a rainbow, but usually it lays on the ground. When you're watering, if you just soak all along there under the stem, it will chase the squash bugs up, and you'll see them come and sit up here, and then you can just kind of get in there and you can remove them. All right, we have more squash over here. Actually, it's a zucchini plant. This is a green zucchini. And you can just see how much I removed. Again, all the way up to the point where there's a flower there. There's a zucchini ready to come off. And I'm looking for powdery mildew. Now, sometimes your zucchini plants have these patterns on here. That's perfectly normal for some of the plants. So you watch them as they're growing and small, and you'll know if these patterns are going to be present and they're normal. That is not anything to worry about. And I don't see any mildew on there. We can pop across here to another massive plant. This is the patty pan type. And I really got in here and cut out a lot of leaves. I mean, this was just overflowing. It's a massive plant. Tons of leaves coming up, tons of flowers. And you can just open it up. And again, I'm slowly looking around. Don't see any powdery mildew. There we go, that's pretty cool. Right in there are squash bugs that just hatched. See them moving? Just get rid of them. Just wipe them out. Squash bugs' eggs right there. Rub them off, let them fall to the ground. And these are all just hatching. They probably just hatched today. Actually, we'll just take that leaf. Get rid of it, we don't need it. So inspection is a lot easier too as you remove some of the leaves. Okay, one more group of squash and zucchini. You can see all the leaves I took off yesterday. I'll clean those up in a bit. And you want to inspect, and here is a squash bug ready to be smashed, and get rid of that. Now, I don't see any powdery mildew, but there's a lot of spotting on here, which might be, you know, maybe from insects or squash bugs sucking the sap out of there. You can remove those leaves too. Just pinch them off. But these two plants look pretty good. No signs of the powdery mildew. That's what I'm mostly looking for. Removed a lot of the leaves out of there. Same thing. Let's get in here. You can see this one's split into 3 different vining areas, and I just took that all out. In fact, I could even take out more. But don't be afraid to thin them back. All right, so let's make up some spray. I'm going to use Serenade. I'll show you how to spray. You know, I'll just go over the basics. Oh, cucumber beetle right in there. That's why we'll put dust on the outer leaves. They're really active at night, and they will crawl through the dust, and that will kill them off. But this kind of process, late July, midsummer, will give your plants a little bit more protection to continue to produce over the next couple of weeks. I also recommend dropping some seeds in now of new squash and zucchini. In case these are beat up too much, we just yank them out. Don't try and save a plant that's a goner. So again, the key to spraying is really sticking to a routine. And as I'm spraying, we're just going to do this one plant. First of all, it's mid-afternoon, direct sun. You really don't want to spray in direct sunlight, but there's only so much time in the day, and I was making a video earlier today. So I'm going to just spray this one plant. It'll be fine. I'm going to spray the rest towards the evening. And you just want to make sure you coat the top sides of the leaves, the bottom sides of the leaves. But everything works a little bit differently. So when you're spraying neem oil on here, the oil actually coats the fungus, the spores, and it stops them from doing their thing. When you put down baking soda or sulfur, it changes the pH on the leaf so that the fungus don't have a hospitable place to live. They don't like the lower pH or the higher pH, and they don't do well. When you're spraying Serenade, daconil, milk, it kind of fills the pores of the leaves and it doesn't give the fungus a place to kind of attach to. So they all work a little bit differently. What you want to use is up to you. You're coating really well the tops of the leaves. The problematic leaves I should have probably removed, so if you notice that, remove the leaves. But start with the top, get the stems. You can use different products as long as you're sticking to your routine. Maybe you use neem oil every once in a while for the insects. Maybe you like baking soda because it's simple and easy to make. Maybe you like daconil because it stays on the plant leaves for a long time. Serenade stays on the leaves for a long time. It's really up to you. But we have a nicely soaked, I'm going to have to get down there and get those leaves. But we have a nicely soaked top part of the plant, and then you just want to get on the undersides and just spray. Take your time, spray all the leaves, get the undersides, get in there, get the stems. And when this dries, I'll show you how I put powder down on the leaves for those cucumber beetles, how I put insect dust or powder along here. You can use organic, you can use chemical, whatever. They're both non-discriminate killers, so you don't want to get them on pollinators. Typically I put them on in the evening when the pollinators go away, and then I wash them off in the morning. But again, I'm just going to put them on here for this video, and I'll get rid of them after the video. And you would just work your way through, making sure you get the undersides and the top sides of your leaves, and that will protect them from the powdery mildew. Slow the spraying or slow the spread down, and then just stick to your routine. If you have an outbreak, every 7 days is great to spray. All right, I'm going to let this dry. Well, I'm going to finish up the plant, and then I'm going to let this dry, and then we'll put the powders down, the insect dust down. So since I'm actually going to wash this dust off, I'm not going to let the leaves dry. But you will want everything to be dry before you put the powder down. This is Captain Jack's dead bug dust. It has a spinosad, it's organic. It's a really good product. And for vine borers and beetles that would be crawling around, the squash bugs like to hang out under there. I just dust the stem just like that. Stay away from the flowers. You know, after it rains, you have to replace it, but that will help manage some vine borers. And then for the cucumber beetle that we saw earlier, I just dust some of the outer leaves. You know, maybe 5 to 10 on each plant, some over here. Try and stay away from the flowers. Keep it away from this whole space in there where the bees are going to go. The beetles will crawl through there, that will knock them back. And you know, you just keep on a routine and it will take care of a lot of the problems on your plants. Opening up the space lets birds in, good insects in, they'll get in there, they'll feed on some of the insects that we don't like. But this is a great way to manage your squash and zucchini plants for longer production in the season. But again, don't forget, start some seeds in containers, get some in the ground, because eventually these are going to get beat up. But they've been producing wonderfully, and I'm really excited they've gotten this far into the season. Thanks for watching, and please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com. I also have a blog that I'm keeping up now. I will be talking about everything we just saw in this video over the week and writing some articles, putting recipes in there if you want to check it out. That link is in the video description. Thanks for watching.